I need to address these other parts of my life, right? I can't just exercise all the time. It's not going to fix everything.
This is the Begin Within podcast, where we believe real, lasting health and fitness requires you to start inside before you work out. I'm your host, Nate Slegger, and I'm here to show you behind the scenes of fitness. You already know exercise is good for you, but what about all the other things in life that affect your fitness? If you're looking for extra motivation to get started or to make sure you keep going, this is the place for you.
Produced by BeginWithin.fit.
My guest today is Dr. Lynn Wagner. She is an integrative medicine physician who works in the Green Bay, Wisconsin area. And Amanda and I have been following her work for years. I first came across her on Facebook, and it was because my wife told me I had to check this doctor out. She is doing Facebook videos from her kitchen and teaching people how to cook in a way that will benefit their health. And I thought, wow, I got to see this. I got to get to know this doctor that is actually teaching people to eat healthier. And so I've been following her work for some time, and I'm super excited to be able to have her on the podcast today. A few themes that you are going to love listening to. Here they are. The word lifestyle. I mean, that is what we spend most of our time talking about, and I want you to really focus in on the things that you hear. When we have our little chat after the interview, I'm going to ask you a question, and it's this. What area of your lifestyle needs some work? Dr. Wagner is going to take you through a number of different areas of lifestyle that might be causing you and me to be a little bit out of balance. So listen for those and listen for an answer to that question. Also, I want you to listen for the things that she calls non-negotiable parts of feeling better. Pay close attention to that. And then this idea, just be a human. We don't have to be perfect in order to have a balanced lifestyle. Here's my interview with Dr. Wagner. So we were just talking about lifestyle. Like, what does that mean to you?
Yeah, no, that's a great question because lifestyle to me is the most critical thing to consider with health. And we as patients and as doctors try to jump past it. And I was trained to jump past it. I was trained to not even consider it in traditional medical training. And I tell every single one of my patients, if you haven't looked at your lifestyle and you haven't tried to improve your lifestyle without making it perfect, because perfection is another problem, you're going to fall short of your goals. So no matter what physical condition, pain, anything, no matter what it is, if you haven't addressed lifestyle issues, then you're going to fall short. So, and when I say lifestyle, I mean things like what you eat, how you move your body, whether it's with exercise or just active work, how well you sleep at night, how well you handle your stress and your emotions and mental resiliency, your relationships with others and yourself, your spiritual connection, if that's important to you, your ability to follow things that you love to do, meaning like, do you have a purpose? Do you have a passion? If it's out, even if it's not in your job, do things that fulfill your soul, fill your soul or fill your bucket. And then there's one more. Oh yeah. Your natural environment. So what do you surround your body with, both positive and negative? I think I covered it all. There's like 8 things.
Yeah. You said in the message you sent me, I was like, okay, I want to dig into some more of these specifics, but we'll see if we have time. I'll have you back again.
Well, yeah. And I actually just created a course on my website. That's a free course that is literally like anyone can go in there, and there's a video on every single one of those sections.
Oh, cool.
With some handouts and stuff like that, just because I found that like I love taking care of patients, but when they see me one-on-one, I should really be doing more like higher level doctoring work with them and not necessarily not necessarily lifestyle coaching. And so it kind of gives them an opportunity to philosophically understand what I mean by lifestyle and then come to see me as a doctor and do more higher level care.
Right. Yeah. Film the general education stuff first, and then let's talk about you specifically.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So the community that we have, as you probably know, and I think I mentioned this to you, like they're exercisers,
right?
And a lot of times they come to us with wanting to begin this process of a better lifestyle.
Completely.
And I always think like exercise gets like it gets the center stage almost of that. And maybe it's just the realm I'm in, but I feel like that's the exciting thing. That's, oh, I got to lose weight. Okay, I'm going to work out.
Right.
But
I would say food and exercise are the ones. Yep.
Yeah. And a lot of our work lately has been trying to help, and that's where this podcast started, trying to help to expose at least our members in our community to all the other things that really contribute to their wellness.
100%.
So
go ahead.
Oh, no. Well, my question was, what are some of the things you found that give you the most bang for your buck when it comes to those lifestyle aspects, those habits, those practices?
Yeah. I mean, and it's an important concept because, you can't run away from your fork. You've heard that before, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like, I used to do this in my life is I used to run 6-7 miles a day, I was hardcore exerciser, but I ate like crap, and I didn't check my stress and I didn't sleep well. This is when I was a med student and a resident and I was kind of gutting out those tough years. And it took me to develop some symptoms and problems to actually like take a step back and say, oh I need to address these other parts of my life, right? I can't just exercise all the time. It's not going to fix everything. So that was kind of my personal transition into looking at the whole picture. And people, it's going to be really helpful for people you work with to realize that they have this goal. They have this goal that they're working towards. They're starting with exercise, but if you work on all the other aspects, it's just going to be synergistic, and then they're all going to work better, and the exercise will work better, and the weight loss will be better. You're going to want to eat healthier. So it all kind of works together. And then personally, what the things that I do, and I kind of look at my own lifestyle, like I have hacks, right? Like, first of all, it's never going to be perfect. And I acknowledge that and realize that. And I don't want it to be perfect because I like to have fun. I really like to have fun. And sometimes having fun doesn't mean it's healthy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm
absolutely.
from Green Bay, Wisconsin. Like we
Ben
have
Jerry's. Yeah.
Exactly. Right. Exactly. So I'm from Wisconsin. I'm going to be a Wisconsin girl the rest of my life. So that I have some things that I'm like pretty like consistent with. Right. So, people make fun of me all the time for my sleep wake schedule. I'll be at a party, and if it's like getting close to 10 o'clock, I start to get kind of edgy. Like I get anxious because I'm like, I need to be in bed because I know I'm not going to sleep past 5:36 no matter what. And so if I cut into those evening hours, it's just going to affect my next day. So I'm pretty rigid about my sleep wake schedule for the most part. Every once in a while, I'll let her rip and stay up till, midnight or 1 a.m, but that's pretty rare. And my diet, that's, as you said, you've seen me a lot doing stuff in my kitchen. That has been an evolution, but it's becoming pretty bulletproof where I have the same breakfast every morning. I have leftovers for lunch. I don't stray in the snacks too often into processed foods or sugary foods. And the dinners are usually a pretty healthy dinner about 85% of the time. Yeah. And doing that kind of allows me to maintain how I want my life to be, if that makes sense. Yeah. So I don't like the word rigid because that makes it sound too strict, but I'm pretty rigid about my diet in a healthy way, I would say. And then I'm trying to think of the other things that we talk. So sleep, exercise. So exercise, that's been a huge evolution for me as well. I exercise every single day. And I think people think that's excessive, but people don't realize how we've become such a sedentary population. We went from being hunters and gatherers and farmers and active factory workers. And I mean, we were active society. And then as time went on, starting with TV dinners and remote controls. And I mean, now we have cars that drive for us. And it's like, we're like taking out everything about being a natural human being and making it automatic. And that's affecting all of our bodies. And so, you can say exercising every day is excessive, but we have to, like, if you literally have to, if you want to be healthy. Does that make sense? So those are kind of like,
Yeah.
I kind of follow those things pretty rigidly. And I
Okay.
could talk more about the other things
Yeah.
too, but
So those are like foundation habits for you.
yeah. Yeah. And I
Okay.
think, you also mentioned like a morning ritual. I would say that's like the last thing that I'm pretty
Mhm.
consistent with every day is I get up usually before anyone in the household gets up, just naturally. That's kind of how I wake up. And most of the time, unless I have like an early appointment or something, I will spend time just sitting in a chair, not meditating necessarily, maybe praying a little bit, maybe meditating a little bit, but like just not doing anything. And that's evolving. I've done meditation in the past. I try to make it more prayerful. And then after that, I'll spend some time either reading, whether it's like a prayer book or an inspirational book or journaling. But I give myself about 30 minutes every morning of just like that time.
Okay.
And then I follow it with coffee, exercise, and breakfast. So that's also another pretty rigid routine I have.
Okay. Got it. I was gonna ask, like, it seems like I can imagine that you're super busy, but you've been able to carve out time for all these important things. Like, that's something we hear a lot, right? Like, oh, I'm too busy
Yeah, we're all too
to
busy.
cook. I'm too busy to work out consistently.
Right.
So what would you tell your your
There,
patients if they told
there,
you that?
I mean, I'm getting more blunt with my patients. It's like, if you're coming to see me, you want to feel better. And if you want to feel better, these are non-negotiable parts of feeling better. You
Mm,
can't hack your way out of exercise, sleep, diet, and stress reduction and resiliency. You just can't.
got it.
So I don't care what supplements you take or drugs you take or what you do. You can't hack yourself out of the fact that you're a mammal. You know what I mean?
So you're just too busy to feel good then, I guess,
Yeah,
right?
like that's fine. We're not a good fit. And
Well,
that sounds really
yeah.
harsh, but we have to wake up to the reality. Like, you're either going to awaken to the fact that you need to do some of these things, or you can continue to feel the way you feel. And there's a lot of people, I would say more people than not, who are resigned to feeling the way they want to feel.
Mm,
And that's not my goal. That's not my target population. My
right.
target population is the people who are coming to you, who are inquisitive, who are wondering, who are exploring and trying different things out, because we shift more of us into that category, and it'll just trickle effect and affect other people.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Totally.
Um, and it doesn't mean by any means that I have it all figured out. I always tell my patients, we're not going to figure, I have this lifestyle wheel that I use, and I'm like, let's try to fill in all these parts of your lifestyle wheel, get them as good as possible. And I said, but realize you're never going to have it all filled in, because if you had it all filled in, you'd probably be in heaven because you'd be perfect. You're
Well,
going to be on
that's not
another
life, right?
plane.
Yeah. Life's always changing too, right?
Yeah.
Like, so if
Right.
you've got it all filled in, then maybe you're a tree. You just
Right. Right. Or
just
you're,
stuck.
you know, lying to yourself.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, and I appreciated that when we were messaging earlier. One of the first things you said is that you're always learning.
Always.
So what are
Love it.
some of the resources that have benefited you that like the general population would have access to? Like, I would imagine you have access to all kinds
Yeah.
of things that we wouldn't be necessarily reading, but
Yeah, I love books. I'm usually reading like anywhere between 3 and 5 books at a time. And it
okay.
doesn't mean I finish them quickly. It might take me 6 months to finish a book, but I personally love reading. I know that's not for everyone. My husband doesn't love reading. I have kids who, they're all on electronics, so they don't read anymore. We'll see what happens with that generation, but I'm still always encouraging it. But podcasts have been really powerful for me. So I was really kind of late to showing up to that game. I don't know how you were with that, but I really didn't start doing podcasts a lot until the last year.
Yeah, last couple of years for me too that I've
And I
really
just,
listened.
what I did is I started seeking out the people who I follow on social media and who
Mhm,
inspire me. And then I stalked them a little bit, and then went to their podcast page and would just kind of look through the episodes and see what looked interesting to me.
mhm.
And then I found a couple of podcasts that for now are good for me and I'm learning a lot from. So that's been really educational for me. And then I I do a lot of continuing education through different institutions for doctors. So like there's the Anti-Aging Institute, it's called A4M, and they do a lot of training for physicians who are doing like anti-aging or integrative or functional medicine. And so I do a lot of classes through that.
Okay.
And then I try to surround myself with people who I'll learn from. So people that aren't necessarily like just like me. You know what I mean? Because you
Mhm.
can surround yourself with people who are all just like you, but then what are you going to do? Just talk about all the stuff you already know. So I try to like surround myself with people who are different than me, who have different opinions, political preferences, don't live in this state. So I have a tribe of people that are kind of all over the country and hopefully someday the world, just to get different perspectives on things and always be growing and learning.
Oh, cool. Thanks
That
for
makes sense?
yeah. I wanted could we dig into the word resiliency a little bit?
Yeah.
I think obviously after this past year that is a pretty, key word.
Very,
Hashtag
very key.
2020
Yes.
resiliency.
Yes.
What role have you found that plays in overall wellness? Or what are some ways let me try that again. What are some ways that we can develop that?
So it's such a simple answer because it's lifestyle. So resiliency, the way I see resiliency is it's your body's ability to stay in a state of balance despite all the stuff that goes on around you,
Mm,
whether it's road rage or political craziness, or you're exposed to an infection, a toxin in the environment. So how your body deals with what's happening to it and how it can stay in a pretty good state of balance is what resiliency means to me. So, and that's not just a physical thing. A resiliency is a mind, body, spirit thing, right? So you can make your body really resilient, but if you're not emotionally resilient and mentally resilient, you're going to suffer just as much as if your body's suffering. So that's how I view resiliency, and that's where you can just simplify it. I always come back to lifestyle, because if you are sleeping well, you're eating fairly healthy, you're exercising and moving your body in a healthy, balanced way, you're keeping connected with others so you're not lonely, you are getting out in nature and experiencing the natural world, and you're checking in on your mental health and your emotions. Those are all things that are just going to keep get your resiliency high and higher and higher. And
mhm.
and you're never gonna be perfect. I mean, I had road rage today. I was driving home from an appointment this morning and someone was going 23 in a 25-mile-an-hour lane. And I was like, just kind of like, oh, you know what I mean? So we're human beings, but it's just like, how much can you change your body's response and your reaction to that? Because,
Mhm.
having a stress hormone surge like that is never going to be good for you. So
Yeah.
how do you diminish that?
So as I'm listening, I feel like it's maybe recognizing when you're out of balance and then
Yes.
kind of like checking in maybe on, or you mentioned the wheel that you use with your patients, right?
Yep.
Like which one of those things right now is the thing that I need to give some attention to?
100%. I do that all the time. This might be TMI, but I'm a woman, so I have a cycle. And if I have bad PMS, so like that 24 hours before my period, that can either be no, like I don't even notice it. I just like go coast right through it, or it can feel really severe where I'll be like, gosh, why do I feel so off today? I feel kind
Mm,
of down. I don't want to do anything, or I'm really, angry or whatever. And I can always look back at the week or two before and identify what was happening in my own lifestyle
mm,
that made me not balanced, because it'll come out hormonally with people.
wow.
Um, I'm trying to think of a good equivalent with men for that. I would say rage, anger and rage. You have men who are like super angry, raging all the time, super reactive, harsh.
Mhm,
That's a very, very indicative of being unbalanced.
mhm.
And it might be unbalanced that they've had like a lifelong of emotional imbalance, or it might be that they're stressed at work and overtired or not eating healthy, whatever. It's usually a
Yeah.
combination of both.
Huh. It reminds me of, like the word disease. Like we think of illness, but it just means literally like you're not at ease. You're
Yeah,
in a state of
balance.
dis-ease. Like there's some
Yeah, I
signs
mean,
of disease here.
it's just like infections, with COVID, it's if your body's not in balance, you look at this is what frustrates me about COVID is all we talk about is the drugs to cure it and the vaccine and all this stuff. And like, if we look at what's actually happening, it's the people who are not in balance who are getting sick from it. And there's obviously outliers. There's obviously some people who are super healthy, who've had some really disastrous consequences from it, but that's not the norm. By far the majority are elderly is one thing, they're out of balance just because their age, but then everyone else, it was because of comorbidities. It was because of obesity and diabetes and all diseases that are preventable, mostly preventable with lifestyle. I mean, they say that like 80 to 90% of chronic disease is preventable.
Yeah.
So that's a classic example of balance and resiliency, and how your resiliency will break down if you're not in balance.
Wow.
And how lifestyle is always the answer.
Yeah.
For most of the time.
Yeah. I wanted to ask about clean up your environment.
Yeah.
Talk about that. Like what does that mean? And
that category is a little bit difficult to describe just because it's all inclusive. So I define that as like what your body's surrounded with, both positive and negative things. So when you're trying to like clean up your environment, you want to take out the stuff that's toxic. So that could be toxic people. We've all had people that we're in relationships with that we've let drag on for too long who are toxic. Cleaning up the like chemicals, endocrine disruptors, and that kind of stuff in your environment. So cosmetics, cleaning things in your home, plastic shower curtains, BPA, all that kind of stuff. Excessive use of alcohol, caffeine, drugs, those kind of toxins. Those are some, and pesticides. So like, using the Clean 15 Dirty Dozen to maybe choose more organic produce when it's affordable and when it's looks good. And then that's the negative stuff that you want to take out when you're cleaning up your environment. But then you also have to think about like, what can you add that's positive? So surround yourself with people you want to be like. They say you're going to be most like the 5 people you spend the most time with. Get out in nature. I mean, that alone is probably one of the most powerful things that I have in my life, is getting out in nature as much as possible.
Get some fresh air. Yeah.
Get some fresh air. Eating healthy food. It's like, what can you add that's positive? Clean up your house. Make sure it's not just a total mess and cluttered and chaotic, because that's going to reflect how you feel internally.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a big category.
Yeah. Cool. I want to be respectful of your time here, but one last question.
Yeah.
As I can imagine, as someone is listening, they might be feeling like, whoa, I have a lot that could be fixed here.
Yes.
What advice would you give to someone who might be feeling that way, who maybe is just starting out on this journey of improving their lifestyle?
Yeah. I love it. And first of all, I would say congratulations, because you've moved past the point of being unaware and complacent to being aware. And that's a great, huge, big step, because, and there's nothing wrong with being unaware. There's some people who are unaware just because they haven't, are you still there? You're breaking up a little bit.
Yep. I'm here.
There's some people who are unaware because they just haven't been exposed to it. So there's nothing wrong with being unaware, but to go from the step of unaware to aware is amazing. Congratulations. And then second of all, I would say, and I had to be careful when I first started seeing patients in my practice. I used to just blast them with like every single thing in the lifestyle wheel. I'd be like, you have to do this and this and this. And I'd be so excited. And I have this thing where when I see a patient, I see how they are today, and I see how I would like them to be and what they need to do to get there. And I would like tell them everything all at once, and then they'd be super overwhelmed. So I've gotten a lot better at that. So now I say, okay, you're going to be climbing Mount Everest. Like, look at this as if you're climbing Mount Everest, and I'm one of your Sherpas, and you're going to have other Sherpas as well. Cause we're all like we're a tribe of healers basically. So depending on your needs, you're going to get people to help you, and look at this as a journey. So you have to just take your first step. So choose what you want to work on first. And that's where, when I use my lifestyle wheel, which, like I said, if people want, like if they went to my website, it's going to be easily accessible in this thing called the Docs Toolbox. All my handouts are in there for free. But basically you do the wheel, you look at your own lifestyle, and then you say, okay, I see this is where I'm missing the most. And this is what is really interesting to me. So I'm just naturally going to start there. So you naturally are seeing people who are starting with the exercise part. A lot of times when I work with patients, we start with the food part, just because that's kind of my mojo.
Yeah.
But I just say, start with one thing or a couple things, and then realize that you're going to get off path. Sometimes you're going to go backwards, but the end goal is that you get to the summit, and you'll get there if you keep working on it.
So just
Step one. Where do you want to start?
Step one. Yeah, it's like how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time?
Yeah.
I can't remember who said that quote, but I think it's pretty
Yeah.
powerful.
Cool.
Yeah.
Dr. Lynn Wagner, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right, let's chat. That was awesome, wasn't it? And as we wrap up, I want to share the way that you can access the tools that Dr. Wagner was talking about in the interview. But let's talk just a little bit about those themes again that I asked you to listen for. First of all, everything around the word lifestyle. And that was basically the whole conversation, right? But in particular, I thought it was really valuable for us to acknowledge the fact that she highlighted that whatever our goals are, weight loss or improving our health and wellness, it works better when you're working on the whole thing, the whole thing being your whole lifestyle. So, we talked about proper rest. We talked about relationships with other people and with yourself. We talked about, obviously, eating well and getting out into nature. There's so many things that impact our health and wellness. So let's acknowledge that fact. We can't just exercise all of our problems away. Although movement, of course, is an important component of the whole thing, just like we talked about. Secondly, we talked about non-negotiable aspects of feeling better. Non-negotiable parts of feeling better. And I want to just capitalize on that word non-negotiable. I really want to emphasize that because just like we talked about, if we're too busy to do some of these things, then let's face it, we're just too busy to feel good. We're just too busy to be healthy. And I think you would agree that if we're that busy, then we're just plain too busy, and we need to set some better boundaries and make some adjustments in our priorities so that we can continue to live the life that we want to live, right? So that we can continue to keep our health as a priority, and we can continue then to have the energy, the stamina, and the health and wellness to take care of all those other important priorities. And then the third theme that I asked you to listen for, and that was this one: just be okay with being human. We have certain things that we absolutely need in order to have good health. And the reality is we'll never do them all perfectly. We're never going to all be 10 out of 10 perfect sleepers, perfect eaters, perfect hydrators, perfect exercisers, perfect in our relationships with others. Like, the reality is life is always changing. Things are always changing. Our circumstances are always changing. And so we're going to have to constantly be revisiting the things that we're doing in order to have balance and good health. That's just the way it is. So when we accept that, it takes some of the pressure off. We're all a work in progress, and we are going to continue to be a work in progress, but we have to do the work. Speaking of work, I want to share Dr. Wagner's work with you. She mentioned this in the episode when we first met. It wasn't ready yet. It is now. I checked it out. You are going to be blown away. So please go to her website. It's lynnkwagner.com. And then toward the top of the page, you're going to see a button to click on called the Docs Toolbox. You can enroll in her course that will give you a nice, well-rounded analysis of each of these areas, including the lifestyle balance wheel that she mentioned in the episode. You can download it. All the materials are able to be downloaded, and then there's videos of Dr. Wagner teaching on those topics. And I kid you not, it is absolutely free. It's awesome that she's making it available for us. So go check it out. Like I said, you're going to be blown away with the fact that you have access to it for free. So please go there and continue to support yourself in having a balanced and healthy life. Now, just in conclusion, I want to go back to what she talked about at the end of our conversation. That was just start. Just like climbing Mount Everest, take a step. And my question for you is, what will that step be? Will it be sleep, nutrition, cleaning up your environment, working on moving more consistently? Celebrate yourself for being here right now, for staring up at the top of the mountain, and for being about to take another step forward. Keep learning, keep moving forward. So, in conclusion here, I just want to invite you to check in and ask yourself, how am I doing? How am I feeling when it comes to that word balance? Am I feeling out of balance? If so, what might be the area of my lifestyle that needs some attention? And how might I begin to take a small step forward? And what can you do that's positive? Positive forward movement. And you know, I'm going to be back here with you next week with another episode. So I want to invite you this week to commit to yourself that you will take that small step forward to make a positive change in your life. And really, the smaller, the better. If you are tired of feeling frustrated and disappointed with fitness and you're ready to get on the path to being the healthy person you want to be, just go to beginwithin.fit and click the Join Our Challenge button. We can't wait to support you in your fitness journey and help you to get the results you deserve.